This agentic overlay is a kind of multiple agents and multiple trust boundaries. All right, so it's multi-agent, multi-trust boundaries, which is really going to be the norm. Hey, Peter, how you doing?
Great. Hey, Nick, thanks for having me back on. It's great to join the podcast again.
So great to have you, on as well. And obviously, we've been working in the working groups on the Agentic AI Overlay working group, so we get to see each other more frequently. But it's nice to have you here. We can spend some time, talking about something that's really been important to both of us and the overall community. So thanks for spending the time and or carving out the time in your schedule to come on board.
Yeah, of course, Nick, I'm always, excited to discuss this topic, and certainly we can, for some of the listeners or viewers who don't, know who I am, Peter Campbell. I run uh, cloud security engineering at Cigna Evernorth.
Awesome, great. Thanks, Peter. Thanks for the quick intro,
Hmm.
and also Peter is a distinguished engineer and board member at the ONUG Collaborative and also within the ONUG community as well. It's like Peter is probably in the top 5% in terms of thought leaders within the community. So it's always great to like get some time with you and chat about things that everyone's kind of struggling with these days. And agentic is one of those things that everyone is struggling with. So let's. I thought how we would start is that. So we have a working group. It's called the Agentic AI Overlay Working Group. We did a lot of work during the fall, kind of into leading up into the fall conference we had in Manhattan, and doing that, what we really focus there is developing a reference architecture. So I thought it'd be good for us to kind of review that with everyone. And it's a little bit, I wouldn't say sloppy, a little bit busy, but let's see if we can kind of share that. I want to see if we can go into slideshow if that will. Um, okay, oh, perfect. It does. It works. Can you see the slideshow? The slide, Peter?
Yes, I can.
Okay. All right. I think, so let's describe this for people. I think there's a couple of points that I'll start with, and please add, as we go. This agentic overlay is a kind of multiple agents and multiple trust boundaries. All right. So it's multi agent, multi trust boundaries, which is really going to be the norm. As we progress into an agentic kind of world, as we start to like have kind of agentic reasoned workflows within an organization. The other thing I think to keep in mind is that this model relates to anything associated with doing agentic. So obviously that can be kind of an agentic workflow that's within HR or within finance or in engineering or in a knock or a sock. It doesn't matter. So it's really general purpose overlay. And a couple of the key components of this. So we have an agent that looks like a little robot icon, here. And then we have the little blue icon is basically an LLM, so AI LLM, or it could be an inference machine. More than likely, it's going to be an inference, and then that agent will have access to private data and also a set of tools. More than likely through MCP, right? So I think those are the major components of it. What we show here is in this first build up is an agentic overlay within a private infrastructure. Okay, so the yellow lines talk about how an agent is interacting with various different components. So inference, private data, tools, and so forth. And then the kind of blue magentic, I'm not really good on color identification, but that's agent to agents, so agents talking to agents, right? Okay. Peter, anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I think this is, this is really designed at least the way we're thinking about the architecture, right? It could be applied to any, enterprise. So I think you touched on a couple of things. Most enterprises, if, from my view, are probably not going to be investing in, large scale AI factories unless they're doing certain things like drug discovery, right? So we do have members of ONUG who have made serious investments in their AI factories, right? So
Yeah.
they're not using like AWS Bedrock or any of the providers, but they're actually building their own, right? Because of the amount of AI capacity that they need for training, which is millions of dollars of capacity, but it's more it makes more sense to run it within their data center. But the vast majority of consumers, I think, are going to be using, LLMs from different providers, and they will not be doing training, but they will be doing inference, and inference is moving more and more to the edge. So as Nick kind of unveils more of the reference architecture, you're going to see more and more layers to the reference architecture. And as security professionals, we like to really come up with some type of model that we can use. And one of the things I think we'll be talking about is a lot of this is our capabilities that your organization may already have today. And in some areas, there are novel risks, right? That we need help from the vendor community to help address those novel risks that are really as a result of the non-deterministic nature of AI and LLMs, tool calling, MCP. So a lot of what Nick has been talking about are areas that I think all of you can look at it within the context of your own organization, how you're consuming AI today. A lot of companies are using MCP servers, and their developers are deploying, in some cases, hundreds of MCP servers into the environment. I know that's something we'll probably touch on as well. But
Yeah.
this is a great foundation, Nick.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's, we all developed it,
Hmm.
but it makes sense. I think we presented it, in New York, and, and it's really been holding water. So, then I think, as I mentioned before, different trust zones. All right. So this is going outside of a private infrastructure, into kind of a non-trusted zone. So this could be a public domain, like an internet, services, which is very popular kind of in the kind of financial services, as for example. So in here, we just show kind of agents talking to various different agents. And maybe this one agent on the bottom, is accessing some tools, maybe on the request of an agent, or two that's in your private infrastructure. Then there are other kinds of public domain AI services. So obviously, XAI, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, all of the kind of main consumer, facing AI services. So and here again, so you see kind of an agent, so kind of almost like a mesh communication of agents talking to each other across these trust boundaries, and then the agents accessing various different data and tools, and inference, at the request of an agent that might be in a different trust zone. And then the last one could be, a cloud hosted services. So this just shows maybe a VPC and an agent there, and various different tools and inference also. And as Peter mentioned as well, is that building, like all of the really large hundreds of thousands, 200,000, going higher than that GPU clusters, that's really talked about in the industry. Those are really hyperscale companies, or companies that are just dedicated to building AI models like OpenAI and XAI and, Claude and so forth, or Anthropic. And others, obviously the hyperscalers, are building at that scale as well. But for the vast majority in the large enterprise, I think this is going to be the model of AI, as we start to implement reasoned workflows across these domains. Peter, want to add anything?
No, I think that I think I'm going to touch on some of the public domain AI services, but I think we talk about securing AI, and then AI for security. But I mean, I think in the the public services like Claude. There's another service, code generation service called Devon AI. Those are good examples of tools that enterprises are
Mm,
using to generate code. And how do we know that it's generating code securely? So some of the some ways to solve this are that organizations can actually create playbooks. And let's say you would create an organizational playbook that has all of your code security policies and standards and best practices, codified into an organizational playbook. And then there are team playbooks that would be used by each team that would inherit policy from the parent playbook. So this is,
mm.
kind of just a good security practice to, deploy policies, centrally, and then allow them to cascade down to the individual teams that are consuming these services to ensure that, they're using AI in a secure way so that the code that's being generated aligns with, corporate standards and practices. So that's just one way to that. This is really nothing unique in the product security or cybersecurity area, but the way that we would apply it would be slightly differently. But the outcome's the same. We have a universal set of controls in that organizational playbook in the case of Devon or Claude code. And these are being heavily used to create a source code across all organizations.
Okay, awesome. So I think, building on that, so we see lots of interactions in this reference architecture, and it's meant to do that so that these kind of elements can interact, on behalf of users to deliver work. But you need to have a control mechanism, on top of this. So I have the control mechanism to the right. But maybe right before I got that, I forgot to kind of mention the public network. What we're basically saying here is that one of the requirements for this is to have a zero trust infrastructure in place. That's a key, attribute associated with this agentic AI, overlay reference. But with the zero trust implementation, there needs to be a way in which we do monitoring and control over this infrastructure. And I think this is a little bit of what you were getting to, Peter. And we mentioned a bunch of things, here, and this is just a partial list of how all of these different agents need to be controlled. So there is some dynamic security controls, identifying rogue agents, killing those rogue agents, prevention of data exfiltration, especially for highly sensitive information within regulatory industries, like clearly in the financials. Um, so there's a range of things, and we're going to start to talk about that because what we did once we had this structure in place, the working group, then we wanted to like really dive into the monitoring and control aspect of this and to obtain from the community what's really mandatory. What do you really need to do right now? And so we did some polling, and we're going to share that, share some of those results in a sec. But Peter, anything on the overlay monitoring and control?
Again, I think I'm going to just try to focus on sort of the cybersecurity basics, right?
Yep.
Around, having the ability to do continuous discovery, continuous inventory of the assets that are deployed across your organization. A lot of those assets are used in some manner around the support of these AI services. Enforcing least privilege, making sure that we have dynamic, kind of real-time policy evaluation. So all these are really cybersecurity, best practices that your teams, are probably already doing today. And they need to be working closely with your development groups that are deploying these agentic solutions to ensure that that the tooling and the visibility is there, and as far as I talked once about inventory as well, really knowing what you have out there, and then establishing clear auditability and accountability for those assets as well.
Okay. Okay, great. So, all right, everyone, this is the reference architecture, right? And so now we wanted to focus on what's important, in order to make this a reality. So let's, I'm going to stop sharing this, and let's see if this will work. Boom. Okay. All right, Peter. We got it. All right, great. So we spent a good amount of time leading right after the summit in New York, and kind of having so much really good input from the community on the model and what's concerning them. So we started to develop some questions. We're not going to go through all of these. We're just going to go through a few of them. We're going to publish this. It's not quite ready yet. This is kind of a sneak preview. There's still more people who are filling it out and providing responses to it. But I don't anticipate it's going to change a lot. Like tremendously a lot. So I think the first thing we wanted to get at is agent identity, lifecycle, and attestation. Being very different than kind of human identity. This is all kind of machine identity. All right. So I'll just to kind of make sure we all kind of know what we're talking about. Please bear with me. I'll kind of read, kind of the detail of the question that we were really trying to get at. And it basically was saying that the overlay that we just presented shall provide a robust agent lifecycle identity and attestation framework, explicitly independent of human identity, covering agent creation, deletion, mutilation, retirement, and single enterprise controlled trust domain, or in a single enterprise controlled trust domain. So this is basically saying you have total control. These are all these agents are in your trust domain. So the framework must enforce strong cryptographic identity and mutual authentication for all agent to agent communications, preventing agent spoofing and ensuring only verified attested agents participate in the secure agent mesh. So how important is that to you? So
Yeah,
it looks like
yeah,
it's really important.
yeah. I mean, this is super important, right? As far as managing agent identities. Look at the agency. What is it that the agent can do? Is it a multi-agent system, which is really going to increase risk, right? Or is this a standalone agent where there's human interaction involved? So to what degree of autonomy does the agent have? And then do we have, really a non-negotiable is to have, strong and well-defined, trust boundaries as well, for all agents and tools, right? So you could also add tools to this as well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
so
So
you
this
must
is
enforce strong cryptographic identity mutual authentication for A to A communication, etc. Go ahead, Dick.
yeah, no, I was just saying, yeah, no, this is like as mandatory as it gets, right? So it's like either mandatory or important but not critical. And I'm not sure about the important but not critical, aspect of this. Maybe it's because of how where they are in their journey, but I think anyone who's doing kind of a serious agentic deployment, this has got to be really mandatory. So it's like, so you think about it like, 100% are saying critical, critical to important, or mandatory to important. So this was across like one trust domain, and then we wanted to try to see what happens when it gets across multiple trust domains. And it doesn't change that much. There's a little bit of a change for later phase, and I think the reason for that is that most are really kind of focusing on one trust domain, right now. I think that's probably more tthan likely what's happening. Peter, anything on this?
No, I agree that as we talked a little bit about multi-agent systems and spanning multiple domains, and I think that's where there's still a lot of probably a lot of questions and some confusion around how to secure these systems, right, across that span trust domains.
Yeah. Okay. Then we wanted to kind of get into the monitoring and behavior. So, how do these agents behave? So, let me again give the context, to here. So, within the overlay, A secure agentic AI overlay shall implement continuous runtime monitoring and dynamic security controls to detect and respond to anomalous agent behavior. So this includes identifying deviations from declared objectives, authorized tool usage, expected execution patterns, and this is really to mitigate risks such as tool misuse, intent breaking, or unsafe emergent behavior. Examples could include runtime security models analogous to container or workload runtime protection, where execution behavior, API calls, and resource access are continuously observed and enforced. So, how important is that capability? So, this is pretty close to like what we had before. So this is like mandatory and important. Almost like a 3/4 to 1/4. A little bit of kind of kicking the can down the road, but not much, around 8% of this. And maybe it's because we haven't had the experience of kind of rogue agents yet. So it's like I think this is kind of anticipating that we will see behavior that um, that is not authorized.
No, that's
And
right, Nick. With greater autonomy, there's going to be, more, decisions, autonomous decisions, right? That can vary. And how do we know that a good decision from a bad decision? So, we need to be able to have, guardrails and rules around what the agent can do, even with a large degree of autonomy.
yeah, yeah, and I think it's like this is kind of the beginning of learning trust, right? So how do we trust the agents? And so having I think it's really smart for this to be really mandatory, because I think you want to have a real good kind of monitoring, a real time monitoring of your agents, so that once things do go, if they do go rogue, you get red flags pretty quick. You know. Okay. Let's see. This one, data guardrails. So really important. 92%. We're saying it's a mandatory. So this is basically data guardrails, input, output, and residency enforcement. So okay, so let me explain this one as well. The overlay shall enforce strict data guardrails to ensure that no sensitive enterprise data leaves organizational control. Right. So the agent doesn't go into credit card information and exposes that. Right. Is an example, of that. But this can include validation, inspection, and enforcement for all data and prompts entering or leaving the system to prevent prompt injection, leakage of regulated or sensitive data like PII or intellectual property, financial, healthcare, etc., and unauthorized external data flows. So clearly, this is like 92% is pretty close to 100%. Mandatory. Peter, anything you want to add?
No, no, I mean, like, I think these all make a lot of sense. I mean, as far as, data provenance, understanding, how data is flowing, ensuring that you have the right visibility and the controls in place, so that you understand, really what your agent is doing, and then having, being able to prove, right, what data the asset, the agent has access to, and what it's able to do. So that's critical control around
Yeah.
these data guardrails. And I think you touched a little bit on um, prompt engineering as well, and there are a lot of uh, solutions in place, available today that can address and provide content moderation and AI safety and security guardrails that will address this before even anything reaches the LLM. So these are some of the things that organizations are looking at today, and some are implementing these solutions.
Okay. So we're going to just do one more, and then we'll kind of leave this. But I think
Hmm.
this is the whole point about monitoring and control. This is the control layer, the overlay of the reference architecture. So these are just some of the things that are really kind of like going to protect an organization, allow automation and autonomy to occur, but within strict guidelines and controls. Right. So a content guardrail. So this is a little bit different. So this is kind of responsible AI enforcement. So we have this is a little bit more split, so almost like a 50-50 around mandatory and important. So we tried to separate kind of LLM content, from agent content here. So we basically said in production mode and beyond LLM content vetting tools, which many are using, the overlay should inspect and moderate agent generated real time outputs to enforce responsible AI principles, including protections against harmful, abusive, biased, or non compliant content prior to delivering to users or downstream systems. This assumes enterprise grade, vetted models, and focuses on policy alignment rather than baseline model hygiene. So, how important is this capability? So I think also this is we really are anticipating, based upon prior experience and prior you know cycles of IT, what could come up. And so I think in here, it's making sure that agents are basically policy of enforcing kind of responsible AI and have the protections that are in place, so that some those policies and the result of kind of you send a workflow or a process to an agent, which might spawn off a bunch of agents and interacting with tools and so forth, and that the response that comes back, is still within the guardrails and the content guardrails that are associated with that particular company. So, Peter, anything else you want to add
Yeah, I
on
mean,
this?
I think you really touched on it. Hit it quite well. I mean, I think having, also clear responsibilities within your organization, right? Or if you're working with your vendor partners around, you know, really non-negotiable policies around guardrails, policy configuration, data handling, threat monitoring, and even having thinking about things like, do you have an on-call escalation path for AI safety events, right? I mean, who would you
Hmm.
call? So those are some of the things I think, companies, enterprises need to be thinking about today.
Okay, great. I think we're going to stop there. There are more questions. We'll reveal those, probably within another couple of weeks, or maybe before Valentine's Day. So before February 15th or 14th. Um, I think what we're going to do with this, with all this data. Let me stop sharing and let's go back. There we go. Okay, great.
Mhm.
So what we're going to do with all this data, we're going to make this available to everybody, and also we're going to start inviting the vendor community, which we already have, to come and get involved. So we love to see solutions to many of these, challenges that most of us have. I think it's like so far there's a good amount of responses that we're getting. So I think we're feeling more and more confident that this is very representative of the large enterprise and their concerns. So we're planning on this is about to start. It hasn't started yet, but basically inviting the vendor community to get involved so that they can present um, options, choices, solutions to these various different agentic security problems, monitoring and security problems. We'll also host workshops in the spring timeframe in Dallas at the AI Networking Summit. On these, we'll have a dedicated track just focused, on the reference architecture and also these responses from the poll. And then also we love to start doing demonstrations. So actually have multi-vendor demonstrations that occur on the show floor. So we're hoping to be able to do that. We have 5 months, to do that with. That should be enough time, for us. But we'll get, I think, a good first start of that in the spring. But then hopefully in the fall in New York, this will be a very robust kind of program around kind of agentic security, so that we can try to eliminate or mitigate as many of these concerns as possible for the community, and so that agentic AI systems can start to be implemented at scale. Right. So
Yeah, and I think we're really looking for, to get feedback from the community. So if the things that you're curious about, have questions about, come out to see us in Dallas or in New York, or just connect with us over LinkedIn or through email, and we can definitely get back in touch.
yeah. Peter, anything else? What else do you want to go over?
No, I think we really hit on a number of things. I mean, I think one of the other things we've been thinking of is really trying to map a lot of these risks into different layers, and we've been working through some threat modeling. So I think we're going to see more of this, in Dallas, in this spring. And, and a lot of this is going to be based on, vendor feedback. And hopefully it'll allow you to think about, how you're securing agentic AI today in your organization. What are the vendors and solutions that are available, and how you can ensure that you're doing this in a safe and secure way.
Awesome. Okay. I'm not sure if we lost Peter there or not, but I see a blank screen. That might, Peter, that might be the clue. That's time to wrap up. So, one, Peter, thank you so much for taking the time to come on in and kind of go over this and get everybody ready for what we're planning on doing in the spring timeframe.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. And I don't know if you can hear me, but my
Yeah.
camera seems to have gone blank here. But yes, thank you, Nick, for the opportunity to come on, and looking forward to bringing this forward. So,
Awesome. Great. Yeah. No, we hear you, Peter. And thank you, everyone. Thanks for plugging in. And, we'll see you in Dallas a couple of months away, but, so we'll have a whole bunch of more podcasts before that, as well. Okay. Thanks, everyone.